In 2019, YouTube was caught violating the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. Since settling, YouTube has enacted new policies that are meant to serve as a smokescreen so they can dodge responsibility and scapegoat creators. As such, for my own protection, it is my obligation to advise you that this video is not aimed at children. My target audience is not children. Parental discretion is advised. Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. Today, we are looking at Ravagers, Volume 1 in Big Finish's newest range, The Ninth Doctor Adventures, released in May of 2021, written and directed by Nicholas Briggs. Ravagers stars Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor. Also featured in the cast are Camilla Beeput and Jane McKenna. As always, I will be discussing spoilers. Even though this is a newer release, I will try to be more scant about them. But, I do these unscripted, so just in case, blanket spoiler warning in place. If you do not wish to be spoiled, in the description box below is the link to Big Finish's website, where Ravagers is available for purchase. And when I was getting ready for this, the big debate came from, how do I want to talk about Ravagers? Because there are 3 individual stories in this box set. Sphere of Freedom, Cataclysm, and Food Fight. But Ravagers is a lot like the Master of Callus or Unit Dominion, where the individual parts make up one cohesive whole. So really, overall, I'm going to be talking about the set as a whole, rather than breaking down the individual stories. Because really there isn't a lot to talk about in terms of the individual stories, because each story only really focuses on one major event in this overall arc. That being said, before we do kind of really begin, I will say one thing. I found the format of Sphere of Freedom a little odd. So, Sphere of Freedom opens in media res. And, the Doctor and his companion, a new companion they've been giving him, in the making of feature for Ravagers, it was either David Richardson or Nicholas Briggs, I forget who, but they said all 4 volumes planned right now for the Ninth Doctor Adventures are all going to take place before Rose. Essentially, they said in terms of continuity, Series 1 is the end of the Ninth Doctor's life. So they're going back into the earlier days, presumably right after the events of Day of the Doctor, or sometime after Day of the Doctor. So, anyway, as I was saying, Sphere of Freedom opens in media res. The Doctor and his companion for this set, a young woman named Nova, have just, shut down the system, essentially. And, the Sphere of Freedom, the titular Sphere of Freedom, I'll get into that more, but it opens with them shutting it down because of time eddies the Doctor has discovered. And then right after it's shut down, a time eddy swallows Nova up. And from there on, the remainder of Sphere of Freedom is an extended flashback of how the Doctor came to meet Nova and how they ended up in this situation. And I found the format a little odd. I get the concept behind it. Again, in the making of, Nicholas Briggs said he wanted to start off with the Ninth Doctor at his most triumphant and then build him up from there. Before I get into the rest of the set as a whole, too, I should say, because I usually do this when I conclude box set reviews, my ranking order for Ravagers is the story order. Sphere of Freedom is the weakest, then Cataclysm, and then Food Fight is the strongest. So anyway, moving on from that, obviously the standout of this set is Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor. Despite being gone from the role for 16 years, it is amazing how seamlessly he just steps back into it. The Ninth Doctor, he's the Doctor I'm neutral on. I don't dislike him, but I don't feel very strongly for him either. If I were to do my ranking, which I keep saying I'm going to do and then keep putting it off, he would be somewhere in the middle of my list, because, just again, I'm neutral on him. But to me, the Ninth Doctor is probably the most nuanced incarnation of the Doctor, because he, coming right off the Time War and the War Doctor, I don't want to say he has PTSD. I feel like that's a little too strong, but he is the most severely affected by it. And there, as my friend Jacob said in his review, there's kind of this misconception in the fandom that the Ninth Doctor is a far darker incarnation, along the lines of McCoy. But he really isn't. I mean, he has those darker tendencies, he has those darker moments, but he wears this mask of happiness. He tries to hide them, because that's what this Doctor wants to be. He desperately wants things to be like they were. He wants to go back to the old ways. After doing something truly horrific, he desperately wants to go back to the old ways of just adventuring and having fun. And Eccleston plays it masterfully. Even in the moments throughout this set where the mask cracks and he does show his darker side. Nova, who I said is the Doctor's companion, is really good too, and they try to set up this interesting mystery to her because as the Doctor travels with her, she is able to kind of correctly assume some things about how time travel works and what the Doctor's doing, which immediately sets the Doctor on edge. And he's desperate to know how she knows so much about time travel. And like I said, it puts a kind of a strain in their relationship as he tries to, figure her out and befriend her. And I will say, the way that mystery is solved is really cute. It's kind of adorable. But Christopher Eccleston and Camilla Beeput, who plays Nova, work really well together. I like their dynamic. There's not a lot to Nova. We get her backstory. She is an indentured servant to the Sphere of Freedom. And, she wants to live somewhere better. That's a good starting point, but Ravagers never goes beyond that. And anyway, as I mentioned, time eddies earlier. The Doctor is investigating them, which initially leads him to Earth in 1959, where he has run in with soldiers and Roman legionaries. The lead legionary, the only one we see, is played by Dan Starkey, and I really wish anyone other than Dan Starkey played him. It's fine, but it's just, he's a Roman legionary. And given what we kind of know about the Romans, their dedication to battle, seeking an honor, living by the sword, code of honor and all that, he's a Sontaran. He just sounds like a Sontaran. And or I really wish Dan Starkey would have done a different voice for this legionary. But it's so tough to talk about that because the military and the legionaries, they do come into play, but they are such a small part of the story. They're a side effect of what's happening. Although I will say this again, Nicholas Briggs crafts a really tight narrative to Ravagers. Nothing feels out of place, nothing comes out of the blue, nothing's unexpected. As we get more information, everything fits into place really well. It's just a tightly crafted narrative, which is really good because Nicholas Briggs is one of the more uneven writers in Big Finish. Sometimes he'll do something really good, like Creatures of Beauty or Beneath the Viscoid, and sometimes he really doesn't, like the ISIS Network, Exile, or The Conquest of Far. Thankfully, this is one of his better forays as a writer. One of my only nitpicks is that, and again, this is a nitpick, is that this is a story you really have to focus on. You have to pay attention to it, because technobabble kind of dominates this story as the Doctor investigates, tries to find out what's going on. And, we get the explanation. There is a lot of technobabble. And on my first listen through, there were quite a few instances where I got lost. Anyway, let's talk about the other leading character of this set, Jane McKenna as Audrey. And, aside from Eccleston as the Doctor, Audrey to me was the best part of this set. So it turns out she runs the Sphere of Freedom, which is supposed to be this super high-tech virtual reality arcade, which is where Noah works. And, people pay billions of dollars, and, she's just sort of the greedy industrialist type. And but as the story goes on, we find out more and more about her, and she becomes really fascinating. And similarly, her back and forth with Eccleston is really good. I actually like their dynamic more than I liked the Ninth Doctor's with Nova, but that's because Audrey gets more of a focus, especially as the story goes on. After being introduced as, quote, sort of the main villain, not really, in Spear of Freedom, Cataclysm is her backstory. She saw this catastrophic event happening, the titular Ravagers, and she spent her life trying to stop it. And all throughout her life, she saw these sort of visions of the Ninth Doctor kind of haunting her, excuse me. And, they kind of motivate and propel her forward. And to kind of explain my point here, I think if you were going to compare this to other Nicholas Briggs stories, I think the most three common to compare them to would be Creatures of Beauty, in the fact that Ravagers is told out of sequence. Hang on, did he write it? I want to make sure he wrote it before I say so. No, he did not. Oh, he co-wrote it. Unit Dominion, which Briggs only co-wrote, I just realized. Which, again, features sort of a mystery plot about an extraterrestrial threat. And wow, I totally just blanked. And a character who may or may not be an antagonist, haunted by the Doctor. And Only the Monstrous, the first volume of the War Doctor series. Again, penned entirely by Nicholas Briggs. And also an introduction of a new Who Doctor. And you can sort of see elements from, as I sort of said, you can sort of see elements from all three of those stories lending themselves to this narrative. And like I said, Ravagers is one of Briggs's stronger outings as a writer, but not his best. This is a decent start to the Ninth Doctor adventures. That being said, the Ravagers themselves were very disappointing. The build-up to them is really good. The tension, like I said, Audrey first found these creatures devouring the universe, and then she tried to find a way to stave them off. And it's mostly effective, but, of course, there are things about her plan that don't work. And when the Doctor intervenes, he kind of makes things worse before he makes things better. And, all throughout this story, the build-up to what the Ravagers are and the tension is really good. But then when the Doctor confronts them in the climax, they are really disappointing. What's even more disappointing is the climax itself. After confronting the Ravagers, the Doctor returns to Audrey, and they figure out a way to stop them. And then after the explanation on how it's supposed to stop them, we cut to right after they're defeated. We don't get the confrontation. Again, it's just kind of disappointing. Overall, though, I would say Ravagers is a really good start to the Ninth Doctor adventures. I would absolutely recommend this, if for anything else, just for Christopher Eccleston's performance alone. Like I said, everything else is decent, leaning on good. Nothing ever gets great, but nothing aside from Eccleston's performance ever goes into great territory, but Ravagers is really good. I highly recommend, I recommend this set. And that's kind of it. Those are my thoughts on Ravagers, trying to remain as spoiler-free as possible. What did you think of Ravagers? Have you heard it yet? Start a conversation in the comments below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload. And in the description box below, you'll find the link to my Twitter where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is your Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.